Xbox May games are here, and we have 6 Day 1 Game Pass titles this month. I'm Sonny, your host at Xbox Central, and we have to kick this off with the exclusive Xbox title Redfall that finally lands today on Game Pass. Set in an open world island where the game has you going solo or teaming up with a band of survivors to take on some pretty vicious and deadly vampires to liberate the land. With 4 different characters at launch, each with their own set of strengths and loadouts and skill trees, you're going to have a variety of ways of taking out these bloodthirsty vampires. Now, Redfall from its gameplay is an excellent mix of action, horror, and just plain adventure that has battles keeping you at the edge of your seat. You'll be collecting loot, you'll be completing a host of missions, and one cool aspect is when you play with up to 4 players or any sort of multiplayer, the characters can really work together with their abilities to take out hordes of enemies at the same time. But honestly, even going solo, the story and just the exploration, that is alone worth the money. This is an exclusive Xbox and Game Pass title that's promising as you slay vampires, you liberate the world, and truthfully, you just have some mindless fun with this one. Redfall is now available today on Game Pass. And we have yet another stunning looking Day 1 Xbox exclusive with the game Ravenlok, and despite its cute aesthetics, the game is really no fluffy bedtime story. Monsters are everywhere in this fantasy world, and it's going to be up to you to defeat these evils. This is a story of a little girl who gets pulled into a mirror world that is just full of mystery and wonder, but she ends up soon finding out that there's really something sinister happening here. This really big caterpillar queen is now the source of a lot of the evil. The game is full of action-packed combat, lots of puzzles you'll be solving, and a completely immersive world you'll be traversing. Ravenlok launches on Game Pass this May 4th. Now, while the game Weird West has been on Game Pass, the definitive edition today got announced, and this is a game that's actually on my top RPGs for Game Pass. It's kind of a bizarre RPG where you take 2 completely different things, cowboys and magic, and then you just mix them all into one. It's like having this weird dream where you wake up to find yourself in a world just full of cowboys and magic that suddenly coexist, where you can even shoot bad guys with your trusty 6-shooter and then cast spells with your wizarding skills. But despite this weird combo, the game is really good. It has received a ton of overwhelmingly positive reviews from players for its captivating gameplay, some awesome top-down RPG action, and where your choices really do make a big impact throughout your story, and each character you play makes their own a legend. Meanwhile, you'll be exploring eerie towns, you'll be fighting off grotesque creatures, and even crafting your own cowboy outfit. It's a delightful mismatch of genres that's gonna make you feel like a badass cowboy wizard. Weird West Definitive Edition does release on May 8th on Xbox Series X and S. So announced today is Shadowrun Trilogy for PC Game Pass. This has already been available on the cloud and consoles. This top-down cyberpunk RPG with fantasy elements is a game with a unique blend of story and immersive role-playing that you really just don't see in many other games. It's set in a post-apocalyptic setting where you play as a squad of desert rangers, lawmen, and women trying to rebuild the society from the ground up, and with your limited resources at your disposal, you'll have to scavenge in order to survive in a world full of dangerous factions. This game's all about the story and the decisions you make in the end. It's a good one when it arrives on PC Game Pass on May 9th. Now, Fuga Melodies of Steel 2 has a pretty unique story. It's been years since the events of the first game where a brutal war was fought and won, but now the same type of entity that helped you fight that first war has turned on you, and now it's gone on a deadly rampage. But what really makes this story different and the game itself different is the fact that you actually control a group of kids. Not only that, you get to learn about their stories and you try to take advantage of their unique strengths. But guys, what's crazy here is there's permadeath. Your crew of kids can die permanently, making it a more brutal experience when you get really attached to these characters. Melodies of Steel 2 combines some pretty awesome turn-based RPG mechanics mixed with some pretty heavy strategy and a heart-wrenching story. Not only that, this game has a brand new event system that gives you even more choices throughout your experience. Choices can be either really good or really bad, and remember, they're gonna be permanent. This is an underrated series and one that I'm happy hits Game Pass on May 11th. The Amnesia franchise has always been a pretty horrifying experience, and Amnesia The Bunker is gonna be no different. Set in a World War I bunker, you play as a soldier trying to escape this deadly maze with just some tools and a flimsy gun with just one bullet. Now, on top of trying to find a way out alive, your mission will be to keep the lights on and survive and preserve yourself at all costs. As the game progresses, tensions are going to continue to rise. You'll be scavenging along the way, but you must adapt to the unique situations as the game is completely random as to what you'll encounter. What that means is no playthrough will be the same if you run this back a few times. Ultimately, this game's all about horror, survival, and the immersion that you get into when you play a horror title. I think personally I'm gonna enjoy this one. The Amnesia franchise is always awesome, especially since Halloween is still pretty far away, and honestly you could enjoy some pretty scary and spooky stuff here with this one when it arrives on May 23rd. Now, as the name suggests for this game, Railway Empire 2 has you controlling a small railway company from scratch, and your journey is going to take you seeing this small company into the largest one in the entire world, and to do so you're going to actually have to outsmart the competition as you go along. Taking place in the 1800s, you're going to build an ever-expanding network of roads and bridges and tunnels to connect town to town. Meanwhile, you'll also be buying trains, freights, and passenger cars to have a pretty profitable company. What makes Railway Empire 2 different than the first is quite frankly just more detail to everything, improved visuals, better and more alive maps and regions, and just a fleshed out more title. There's also co-op mode here where you can play with friends, and you can even take in the scenery on the trains and enjoy the ride as you go along. Railway Empire 2 releases on May 25th on Game Pass. Now, if you guys remember, I've talked about the game Cassette quite a few times, but it only came out for PC Game Pass. Well, the cool thing is now it's coming for consoles this May, and in case you missed it, the game's all about the Pokemon type formula, only monsters are old school cassette tapes that you actually take advantage of and you transform into. Each monster comes with its own set of strengths and weaknesses that you utilize to your benefit in battle, and the game has this unique system of combining these monsters to make even more powerful beasts. If you guys are into Pokemon type of titles, I'm happy to report this is going to land on May 25th across consoles. Now, a game that I'm certainly looking forward to is Farworld Pioneers. This is a day one Game Pass title, and it's a game that I like to best describe as Terraria mixed with Minecraft and maybe even a sprinkle of Stardew Valley in space. This is an RPG that really has all sorts of mechanics in place and sandbox elements to mess with. Things like farming, crafting, gathering, exploring, and even managing settlements filled with AI survivors that you'll be recruiting, and each of those survivors that you recruited have their own skills and their own personalities. It's a content-filled game with a robust multiplayer that can actually have you surviving together if you wish, or you can actually duke it out against each other and just have some chaotic fun. Honestly, the game looks pretty nuts and it looks pretty wild, and if you guys are into Terraria type of titles like I am, I think Farworld Pioneers is going to be a great one when it drops on Game Pass on May 30th. And just announced right now, Xbox has a new referral program that lets you invite up to 5 friends to play on PC Game Pass for 14 days. This could work for some cross-platform games like Redfall if you guys want to play with a buddy. And with that, guys, we also have some games returning to Game Pass. Besiege makes a comeback with a full release. This is a physics builder where you construct medieval contraptions to engage in some big battles. This is available now. And then we have the game Quantum. This also has made its return to Game Pass. It left the service for a bit, but now it's finally here. And then we have the games that leaving Game Pass on the screen for May. These games will be leaving on May 15th. As always, you guys get a discount if you want to buy them. And if you guys want the best games to play on Game Pass, I have a list of 50 amazing games. Click that video on the screen.